Have you ever wondered why so many men, even the smart ones, end up trapped in the same emotional mess, giving too much, waiting for validation, and waking up one day realizing they've lost themselves in a relationship? You've seen it happen. Maybe it's happening to you right now. At first, it's exciting. She laughs at your jokes, texts you back instantly, wants to spend hours with you. You feel chosen. And then, slowly, things change. The attention you once had to fight off is now something you're begging for. She's less affectionate. She's busy more often. And without even noticing, you start chasing harder, thinking that if you just try a little more, give a little more, she'll go back to how she was at the start. That's the trap, the one nearly every man falls into. It works because it plays on your need to feel wanted. When her interest was high, you were relaxed, confident, yourself. But the second she starts to pull away, you react with anxiety instead of composure. You try to buy back her affection with more attention, more texts, more let me prove I'm worth it behavior. And here's the brutal truth, that energy isn't attractive. It's desperate. She doesn't see your efforts as love. She sees them as weakness. Think about the last time a woman started acting distant. What did you do? Did you mirror her distance? Or did you close the gap by overcompensating? Most men close the gap. They can't stand the discomfort of uncertainty, so they rush to remove it. They give gifts, write long messages, bend their schedules, cancel plans, all in the name of making things work. And what's the result? She respects you less, she trusts you less, and she feels less for you. Because when you give in to her withdrawal, you silently confirm that her attention is more valuable than your self-respect. The way out isn't complicated, but it feels unnatural at first. When she starts to pull back, you do nothing. You don't punish her. You don't try to win her back. You simply stop matching her investment with more than she's giving. If she texts once a day, you text once a day. If she cancels plans, you don't chase for another date, you wait for her to suggest it. You create a quiet mirror, reflecting her effort back to her. That's how you break the trap. You stop proving yourself and start observing her. Here's a real example. A man I know, Chris, was dating a woman who suddenly began taking hours to respond to him after months of rapid replies. Instead of panicking, he let her messages sit. When she finally reached out with, "Hey, sorry, been busy," he didn't interrogate her or send a paragraph about missing her. He replied, "No worries. Hope your day's going well," and went about his life. 2 days later, she texted first, wanting to see him. Why? Because his lack of desperation reminded her that his attention wasn't guaranteed. It made her wonder if she might be losing him, and that's a far stronger motivator than him chasing her harder. In the moment, your instincts will fight this. You'll feel the urge to fix things immediately. But the moment you make her comfort your priority, you've already lost the frame. Modern dating is a constant test of who holds the emotional center. She will never say it out loud, but she wants to feel you have the strength to keep your ground even when she creates uncertainty. That's what tells her you're not just another man she can manipulate with attention. And here's the tactic you need to burn into your mind match. Don't exceed. Matching effort is not playing games, it's protecting your value. If she invests less, you invest less. If she invests more, you meet her there. This keeps the balance of respect intact and prevents you from sliding into the role of the overgiver. It also creates space for her to miss you. Desire grows in absence, not in constant availability. The trap isn't that she pulls away, that's normal. The trap is that you see her pullback as a problem to solve instead of a reality to observe. The moment you treat it as something that needs fixing, you've handed her all the leverage. Instead, You need to develop the ability to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. That's how you keep your frame. That's how you stay attractive. That's how you avoid becoming just another man who gave too much, too soon, and got nothing in return. Have you ever done this and didn't realize it pushed her away? Tell me what happened. What's the hardest thing you faced when trying to keep a woman interested? Drop your story below. Which mistake do you see yourself making the most? Be honest in the comments. The second layer of the trap isn't about her pulling away. It's about you making her emotional climate more important than your own. This is where most men lose themselves completely. You start waking up and checking your phone for her messages before you even brush your teeth. You make decisions based not on what you want, but on how she might react. You measure your worth in the tone of her texts, in how quickly she replies, in whether she uses an emoji or not. This constant scanning of her mood turns you into a man who no longer leads his own life. You become reactive instead of proactive, and in her mind, the shift is clear. You are no longer the grounded man she was drawn to. You are now orbiting around her like a satellite, waiting for the signal that you're good enough again. The power has shifted entirely. Why does this work on you? Because most men have been trained to think that keeping a woman happy is the ultimate goal. They confuse keeping her interested with keeping her comfortable. But those are not the same. Comfort can be boring. Comfort can breed disrespect. What actually keeps her invested is the sense that you are a man with his own gravity, a man who doesn't disappear into her emotional weather. You need to understand this when she pulls away. Sometimes she's not even consciously testing you. It's often subconscious. Her instinct wants to see if you're as solid as she thought you were. Women are drawn to emotional stability in men. But the only way they can truly confirm it is by rocking the boat a little and seeing if you can still steer. Here's a tactical shift you can make starting today. The next time she seems off, instead of asking, "Is everything okay?" or "Did I do something wrong?" you switch the frame. You lead with something neutral and self-contained, like, "I've got a busy couple of days ahead. I'll catch you later." This does two things. It stops you from feeding her the power to dictate your emotional state, and it subtly communicates that you're occupied with your own priorities. You're not cold, you're simply not dependent on her for stability. I've seen this work in real life. A client of mine, David, was in a new relationship where his girlfriend began to cancel plans last minute. Before, he would have sent apologetic, over-explaining messages like, "It's fine. I understand you're tired." This time, he tried a different approach. When she texted to cancel, he replied, "No problem. I've got a few things to catch up on anyway." Then he went completely offline for the night. The result, she texted him the next morning, apologizing and suggesting a new time because he didn't chase. She stepped forward. You also need to recognize another version of this trap when you try to overcorrect. Some men, after realizing they've been overgiving, swing the other way and become cold, distant, and overly unavailable. That's not strength, that's reactionary behavior. True strength is balance. You remain warm, but you never out-invest her. You keep your own life full and interesting, so you're not tempted to fill the gaps with her attention. And here's the mental reframe. Instead of thinking, "What do I need to do to keep her?" think, "What do I need to do to keep myself?" When you are centered in your own life, you stop being a man who waits for permission to feel confident. You become a man whose presence is felt because you're anchored, not because you're chasing. This isn't about playing games. It's about refusing to play hers unconsciously. If she pulls back, you observe without rushing to fix. If she invests, you meet her there, not ahead of her. If her mood shifts, you stay in yours. It's a steady hand on the wheel, not a white-knuckled grip trying to control every wave. The uncomfortable truth is that women rarely tell you outright when they're losing interest. They show you in subtle ways: less eye contact, slower replies, less touch. And the real test of your value is what you do in those moments. Do you panic and double your efforts, or do you trust that if she wants to be there, she will meet you halfway? Breaking the trap means mastering your internal response. That's the battlefield most men ignore. You'll feel the pull to reach out, to fix, to explain. But every time you resist that pull and hold your ground, you're building the muscle of emotional self-control. And in modern dating, that's not just attractive, it's rare. Have you ever caught yourself living in her mood instead of your own? When was the last time you led the interaction instead of reacting to it? If you could go back, which moment would you handle differently? The third layer of the trap is more subtle. It's when you start negotiating your boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace. At first, it feels harmless. She wants to change plans last minute, and you tell yourself, it's not a big deal. She makes a comment you don't like, but you let it slide because you don't want to ruin the mood. She criticizes something you did, and instead of calmly standing your ground, you explain yourself into exhaustion, piece by piece. You start giving away ground. And here's the thing she notices. Women have a deep, almost instinctive awareness of how much space a man holds for himself. When she sees you repeatedly give that space away just to keep her happy, she may not consciously think he's weak, but she feels it. And that feeling kills attraction far faster than any single argument ever could. You might tell yourself you're being understanding or compromising, but what you're really doing is signaling that her comfort matters more than your integrity. This is one of the most dangerous shifts because it doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual. It feels like love, but it's actually erasure. Here's the psychological reason it works. People don't value what they can control too easily. When every request, mood swing, or change in plans from her is met with you bending, she no longer sees you as a man she has to earn. You become the default option, safe, predictable, and completely unthreatening. And as much as women say they want nice guys, the reality is they lose interest in men who offer no resistance. A tactical way to break this is to set small boundaries early and without hostility. Let's say she calls you at 11 p.m. on a work night wanting to talk for hours. If you're tired, you can simply say, I can't talk tonight, but let's catch up tomorrow. Short, calm, and final. You're not punishing her, you're protecting yourself. The more you do this, the more she understands that your time and energy aren't up for negotiation just because she's in the mood for something. I'll give you an example from a guy I coached. Mark. He was dating a woman who loved to test him with last-minute demands. One Friday, she called saying she wanted him to drive across town to see her because she didn't feel like coming to his place as planned. In the past, he would have agreed, even if it meant rearranging his night. This time, he said, I'm already here and I've got things going, so I'll see you next time if tonight doesn't work. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Fine, I'll come over. He didn't argue, he didn't beg, he just stated his position. And that night, she was noticeably more affectionate, not because he manipulated her, but because he reminded her that he's not a man who can be moved at every whim. You need to understand boundaries aren't about control, they're about self-respect. When you make them negotiable, you teach her that your respect for yourself is conditional. And once she knows she can get you to bend by using emotion, pressure, or withdrawal, you've handed over the keys to the entire relationship dynamic. The emotional cost of this trap is huge. Over time, you start feeling drained, resentful, even invisible. You might notice that the more you give, the less she appreciates. That's because giving without boundaries doesn't inspire gratitude, it inspires entitlement. She begins to expect that you will always adjust, always accommodate, always fix, and eventually, she will look elsewhere for the man who won't bend so easily. To avoid this, you have to start small but stay consistent. If you've been a chronic over-accommodator, You can't flip into alpha male mode overnight. That will feel fake and forced. Instead, pick one area where you've been giving too much and draw the line there. It might be your time, your money, or even the tone she uses when she speaks to you. Hold that line no matter what. And when she pushes, because she will stay calm, your calmness will do more to shift the power dynamic than any speech about respect ever could. The irony is that women often feel safer and more attracted to men who have unshakable boundaries. It shows them you're not operating from fear. You're not with her because you need her approval to feel whole. You're with her because you choose to be. And choice is infinitely more attractive than dependency. Have you ever caught yourself agreeing to something you didn't want just to avoid conflict? What's one boundary you've let slide that you wish you'd held? When was the last time you calmly said no without over-explaining? The fourth layer of the trap is the most dangerous because it's invisible. It's when you start measuring the health of the relationship only by her approval. You stop trusting your own perception. You stop asking yourself, do I even like the way this feels? And instead you obsess over, does she like me right now? This is how men end up staying in situations that slowly destroy their confidence. A woman can be inconsistent, disrespectful, or even manipulative, and you'll still fight for her attention because the only win you recognize is her validation. You stop being a man with standards and become a man chasing permission to feel good about himself. The reason this works so well against you is because in the early stages, her approval felt like oxygen. She gave you attention, affection, admiration, things you wanted, maybe even needed. And without realizing it, you built a mental link. Her approval equals my value. Once that link is in place, every withdrawal of attention feels like a threat to your identity. That's when you're most vulnerable to doing things you swore you'd never do, begging, over-explaining, apologizing for things you didn't even do wrong. This is exactly where she can start to control the relationship without saying a word. She doesn't need to yell or argue. She just has to shift her energy, and you'll work overtime to fix whatever you think went wrong. You'll be in the kitchen making dinner for her, driving across town at midnight, or sending paragraphs about how much you care, not because you truly want to in that moment, but because you're trying to earn back the emotional high you felt when she was all in. The only way to break this layer of the trap is to redefine the scoreboard. You stop measuring success by her mood and start measuring it by your own adherence to self-respect. Did you hold your boundaries today? Did you stay true to your priorities? Did you express yourself honestly instead of calculating what she wanted to hear? That's the new metric. I'll give you a real example. A man named Alex was in a relationship where his girlfriend would go cold for a day or two every time he didn't immediately agree to her plans. He used to spend those days sending sweet messages to thaw her out. After a while, he realized he was rewarding her withdrawal with more attention. So, he changed the approach. The next time she went cold, he didn't chase. He lived his life, went to the gym, met friends. 2 days later, she texted like nothing happened. That's when it hit him. Her mood was never the real threat. His fear of losing her was. Here's the tactical application every time you feel the urge to fix her mood. Stop and ask, if she never came around, would I still feel good about how I'm acting? If the answer is no, don't do it. This forces you to act from your standards instead of her emotional temperature. Over time, this rewires your instincts. You stop trying to win her back in small moments and start living in a way that makes you unshakable, regardless of who stays or leaves. There's a strange thing that happens. When you operate like this, you become more attractive, not less. Women respect men who are grounded enough to let them have their moods without trying to manage them. It shows that you see her as an equal adult, not a fragile prize you have to protect from every discomfort. And on a deeper level, it signals that your world doesn't collapse if she pulls away. That's the quiet confidence most men never develop because they've never stopped playing the approval game. You need to remember her approval is a bonus, not the foundation. If you can't feel valuable without it, you're already in the trap. But once you can walk away from a situation that doesn't meet your standards, even if she's beautiful, even if the chemistry is insane, you've escaped the one thing that keeps most men stuck: the belief that losing her is worse than losing yourself. So, ask yourself, have you ever stayed in a relationship just because leaving felt like failure? When was the last time you made a decision without factoring in how she'd react if she lost interest tomorrow? Would you still be proud of the way you've shown up? The final layer of the trap is the one most men never see until it's too late. It's when you've given so much ground, adjusted so many boundaries, and made her approval your compass for so long that you've forgotten who you were before she came into the picture. You can't even remember what your life felt like when you weren't constantly thinking about how to keep her happy. This is where men start to feel hollow. You might still be in the relationship, but you're no longer leading it. You're following. You're reacting. You're surviving inside the emotional frame she set, and the worst part is, she knows it. Not always consciously, but she feels it. And that feeling kills the polarity that attracted her in the first place. Here's the brutal truth: if a woman can predict your every reaction, she will stop respecting you. Not because she's cruel, but because she knows you've lost the edge that made you a challenge. In the beginning, you were decisive. You had opinions. You had a life that she wanted to be part of. Now, you've bent so far that she's not stepping into your world anymore. You're living in hers. The cost of staying here is huge. You stop taking risks. You stop pursuing your passions. Friends notice you've changed. You're more hesitant, more careful, always checking the emotional weather before making a move. And slowly, you lose the ability to see yourself as the man you used to be. That's the quiet death. Most men never talk about the loss of self that comes from making one person the center of your identity. Breaking out requires a hard reset. You can't just fix this layer with small tweaks. You need to step back and ask the question most men avoid. If I took her out of the equation, would I still recognize myself? If the answer is no, you have work to do. That means rebuilding your life outside of her friendships, hobbies, physical goals, professional ambitions. It means having commitments and priorities that exist whether she's thrilled with you or ignoring you. I worked with a man named Jason who had been with his girlfriend for 3 years. By the end, his entire week revolved around her schedule. He didn't go to the gym anymore because she didn't like it when he was gone for too long. He stopped playing guitar because she called it a waste of time. When they finally broke up, he felt completely lost. He had no idea what to do with himself because every decision for years had been filtered through her. The turnaround came when he decided to rebuild his life from scratch, not to get her back, but to get himself back. He joined a martial arts class, started a side business, and reconnected with old friends. Within months, his confidence shifted, and here's the irony: his ex reached out, curious and suddenly missing him. But by then, he'd outgrown the need for her attention. He could engage with her on his terms, without fear, because he was no longer trapped in her frame. That's the state you need to reach, where your sense of worth is so deeply rooted in who you are and what you do, that no one person can shake it. When you get there, you stop worrying about keeping a woman. You start thinking about whether she's worth keeping in your life. And that flips the dynamic completely. You're no longer trying to pass her tests, she's trying to pass yours. In the end, avoiding the trap isn't about being colder, harder, or more mysterious. It's about becoming unshakable because you know who you are with or without her. It's the quiet strength that comes from not needing to control her, not needing to win every moment, and not needing her mood to define your day. She may stay, she may go, but either way, you're solid, because she didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.